Let's speak about Workhorse stock, baby. What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack. I am not a financial advisor, and today we're speaking about the one and only Workhorse. There is genuinely quite a lot we need to cover today. First of all, we have to speak about the price action, because everybody's aware things haven't been too juicy the last few days, and I want to give my thoughts on it and what I think could potentially happen next, particularly over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I want to speak about when I believe the contract is going to be announced, okay? There's a few main timelines, and I also want to speak about how much it is actually going to be worth. We see the numbers 6.3 billion, 8 billion, and now 20 billion thrown all around the place, so I want to kind of give the case for each of those numbers. I want to speak about Workhorse achieving a 160 mile range, which I have to say, in regards to last mile delivery, a lot of people don't appreciate this enough, is absolutely immense. It's far more than enough, I'll put it that way. I want to speak about California banning the sale of new ICE vehicles by 2035 and why that is massive in regards to this Usps contract. And we gotta speak about ARK Invest absolutely loading the boat on this dip and why that should fill you, me, and every other investor with a boatload of confidence. Workhorse never seems to surprise me. I mean, there is always new news coming out. It's insane. This week in particular has been particularly insane for many reasons, a lot of which have been outside of Workhorse's control. I mean, there's been a broader market sell-off, there's been a major EV market sell-off, and Workhorse hasn't really been any different. So I want to speak about, do I still feel the same way I always have about them? And I think a lot of you guys are going to know the answer. I want to say, have I bought any more? And do I plan on buying any more at these current prices? But anyway, guys, right before we get into the video, can I please ask you to hit that juicy like button? You guys know what happens if you don't hit the juicy like button on Workhorse videos. Brian will show up in your nightmares.
You don't want me to show up in your nightmares.
If you're new around here, please hit that juicy red subscribe button. Join the family. We are on the road to 50,000 subs. I cannot wait until we get there. That is going to be insane. And please drop me a comment down below. Let me know where you stand on Workhorse now, especially if you bought some more shares on this juicy dip. With that being said, guys, into the video. So as always, we'll very briefly start out with the recent price action, okay? And so you'll remember, in the last week, we hit $30 a share, and it was beautiful. On the 5-day chart, however, we are down 23.19% for what would seem like no reason, no fault of Workhorse. They've done nothing wrong, there's been no bad press. We've just seen this broader sell-off in the EV market. We've also seen a sell-off in general, EV aside. I still want to remind everybody that on the monthly chart we are green, we're up 21.5%. Now that's not a lot compared to the 68+% we were, but still, we did just get hit by 2 horrific days, losing a quarter of our value. It happens, that's the risk of these growth stocks, of these EV stocks. Now we are up in the pre-market, but again, I'm not really getting my hopes up. I think absolutely anything could happen today. In general, over the last 2 weeks, Fridays have actually been good, but before that, Fridays have always been bad, so who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, you already know this stuff. Let's get into the juicy details. So the first thing we have to speak about, the Usps contract. Is it worth $6.3 billion? Is it worth $8 billion, as I covered in my last video? Or is it worth $20 billion? So everybody's throwing around this $20 billion number, which is actually pretty much about 4 years old at this stage. I mean, we all knew about this. This isn't new news. I know a lot of the articles you're going to see are from recent times, and there are even more up-to-date ones, okay? But this is an extract from basically Mahindra's press releases. And we all know Mahindra's not even in the running anymore. So here, this is from August 7th, okay? Mahindra withdraws bid to supply trucks to the US Postal Service. The Postal Service's NGDV contract called for the supply and support of up to 180,000 new postal vehicles. More likely, I think, 165,000. But again, this is just one of those things where we see conflicting information. Let's just say it's between 165 and 180 over the course of 20 years and could approach a potential worth of over $20 billion. The first thing to notice, okay, and could approach a potential worth of over $20 billion. Now, a lot of people are speculating that this extra money is going to come from, repairs, infrastructure, and things of the likes. Well, first of all, in regards to infrastructure, Duke Energy is going to help with a lot of that. So that 20 billion, straight off the bat, it's not all going straight to Workhorse, even if this is to do with infrastructure. And I mean, this says over the course of 20 years. What about everything else that says over the course of 5 years? I mean, you'll all be aware of this article from trucks.com. Postal Service is starting negotiations for giant mail truck contract. And on this one, it just says, after years of delay, the US Postal Service is launching the final stage of entering an estimated $6 billion contract. Now, in this one, it does say the Postal Service has said the contract could be worth more than $6 billion of business to build as many as 180,000 delivery vans. So in my opinion, the contract is going to be worth somewhere in the realms of $7 to $8 billion in just raw vehicle value. If you want to start speaking about $20 billion, yeah, potentially, there's going to be a lot of, maintenance fees, infrastructure fees, things of the likes. I honestly don't think we need to worry too much about that in the short term. I genuinely don't. I know it's a lot of money yet, but We don't know exactly how it's going to be broken down, and we won't know exactly how it's going to be broken down until we see who gets the contract and who gets what percentage of the contract. So I don't see much point in speculating. So yes, there is merit to the contract being worth considerably more than 8 billion, potentially even as much as 20 billion. But I do think that's a far-fetched number personally. I don't think it will be worth that much. Because people are speaking about repairs and maintenance and things of the likes, and also their infrastructure, but I mean, one of the selling points of EV is that it's greener and it's cheaper, it's more efficient. And I mean, this is literally one of the first slides on Workhorse investor presentation. Reduced maintenance costs moving to electric. I mean, if a vehicle is going to cost $50,000, for example, do you really think that over the span of 20 years they're going to spend $75,000 per vehicle in maintenance? That wouldn't make any sense. You would buy a new vehicle. Now, it isn't that simple, and obviously, we do have to take into account these things, but I don't honestly think it's worth really paying too much attention to just yet. It's not what is going to get people invested. It's not what's going to propel the company forward in the short term. It's not what's going to raise enough capital to grow. It's not what's going to lead to us getting more contracts in the short, medium, and long term. Right now, in my opinion, it is speculation. A lot of people are just going off of, an extract from Mahindra that is more than 4 years old. I don't know why this has resurfaced lately. We all knew this. I mean, we've gone through this in the past videos. I'm sure it's in some of my videos from over 2 months ago. But yeah, I'm genuinely not really too concerned about this at all. I do think that the 8 billion number that was said by Craig Irwin of Roth Capital is much more accurate. But again, we're not going to know exactly until the contract's announced. Until then, it is speculation. You can ask me, you can ask any other YouTuber, you can email the post office, you can email Workhorse or Ford. Nobody is going to give you exact answers because they can't, or else they're a YouTuber and we don't know. So that's my stance on that. I still think that we don't really even need to worry about it too much. It's going to be worth at least $6.3 billion. It's more than likely going to be worth $8 billion short term, and then in the long term we'll figure out more down the line. But of course it could approach the $15 to $20 billion mark. Now I want to speak about the timelines of the contract being announced and my frustration towards the USPS. So we see articles like this far too often as of late. Why are so many mail trucks bursting into flames? And this is of course in relation to the USPS and their disgustingly old, borderline ancient fleets. How old are USPS trucks? Okay, they entered service in 1987, 10 years before I was born. Some of these vehicles are legitimately more than 3 decades old. That seems ridiculous to me. And I mean, they're bursting into literal flames. USPS, get your stuff together. What are you doing? Why are you prolonging this announcement? It's absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Now look, I've always made my stance on this channel very clear. I did believe the contract was going to be announced before the end of the fiscal year, which would be the 30th of September. Now I've also made it clear that's not a guarantee. In fact, nobody knows when it's going to be announced. They could decide they want to push it back 5 more years. I really don't think that's going to happen because their fleet is literally bursting into flames, but nobody knows, and if they try to tell you for definite, they're lying. So I have always been of the opinion it'll be before the end of the fiscal year. Time's running out. Time really is running out, and we haven't seen much from the USPS to, suggest to us it will come out within the next week, because that's all we have, not even a week. So if it doesn't come out, okay, by the end of September, what are the other time frames in my opinion? So this is again things we've kind of gone through in the past. So again, if we come at the trucks.com, the deadline for 4 separate company teams to provide contract proposals to build the new trucks passed on July 14th. The Postal Service told Trucks.com that it will now begin the evaluation of the proposals and start negotiations. So I mean, by now, this should really all be done and dusted. This should be known. So after the proposals are put forward, it should be 90 days after the proposals that the contract should be announced at the absolute latest. So that would be around mid-October, okay? Rex Finance actually spoke about this a little bit more in depth. And Rex Finance is an awesome guy on YouTube. I mean, man brings out some excellent content. The man caught Workhorse, I believe, before they were $3 a share. He's eating good. We'll put it that way, he's eating good. But this is something we spoke about on the channel again a couple of months ago. So mid-October is another potential, time frame that we have in our heads right now. And then the third time frame, okay, which is on the later end of the spectrum. An award or awards is currently planned for the production phase by the end of the calendar year, the agency said in a statement to Trucks.com. So USPS said this themselves. An award is currently planned for production phase by the end of the calendar year. So there we have it, guys. In my opinion, there's 3 main time frames: the end of September, mid-October, or the end of the calendar year. And I think if it goes any further than that, it's going to be tough. But the reason I want to make this a very clear point today is because I know I am one of the people who said I fully expect it to happen by the end of the fiscal year. I still hope it does, but be prepared, it's not going to affect me if it doesn't happen. I'm not going to be one of the weak hands. I'm not going to be one of the people who contributed to the 25% sell-off that just happened. You know what I mean? That's not me. But just do start getting mentally prepared. There is definitely a chance it's not going to be announced this month, and I want to make that really clear. A lot of people are still speculating mid-October. I know a lot of people have Workhorse calls for, I believe, believe it's either October 14th or 16th. And I mean, the main reason for that is because that's 90 days after July 14th. I don't play options though. Now, before we get into some of the good Workhorse news that's come out, I want to speak about some of the negative things that have been said about EVs in general and also SPACs in general as of late, and just address them. So I mean, Cramer, we all know Cramer, okay? Responding to a viewer inquiry on air on Monday, Cramer urged caution with the stocks of SPAC companies seeking to merge with electric vehicle startups. He said Diamond Peak Holdings is an EV SPAC. Now, we saw what happened with some of the EV SPACs, okay? Apparently referring to the steep fall of electric truck startup Nikola. We saw what happened to one terrible company. We didn't see what happened to an EV SPAC. We saw what happened to one terrible company. Anybody with half a brain knew this from the start. Nikola wasn't a good business model. It never was. It was overvalued from day one. I mean, genuinely, guys, we all called this. This was the first EV company on this channel I spoke about that I didn't like. And it's the only EV company I've really ever spoken about on the channel that I really don't like. You know, there's some EV companies out there that, you know, I don't like enough to invest in, but I understand them and I understand why people would invest. Nikola, at current valuations, has always been disgusting. Like, genuinely, always disgustingly overvalued. I just think it's very ignorant of a man like Jim Cramer to say something like this. I mean, he's been in the game a lot longer than me. I have a lot of respect for him, you know. I do think a lot of the time he has outdated opinions. He was also the same man who bashed Tesla for a very, very long time and now loves them. So this is one thing that happened, and you know, this gets seen by a lot of retail investors. A lot more people will see this than see my videos or all of the other people on YouTube who have the positive things to say about Workhorse and SPACs in general. That pushed fear into the market. It happened during a broader market sell-off, so it got exaggerated. Now, I'm actually not upset about this sell-off because it's going to let a lot of people build their positions in Workhorse. I genuinely never thought we were going to see these prices again unless it came out that we didn't get the contract. I mean, the fact we fell below $21 is absolutely insane. And I mean, it made a lot of people build bigger positions, which means hopefully a lot of us are going to make more money than we would have without this sell-off. I mean, that was a big juicy sell-off, and I bought more shares. I bought 80 more shares of Workhorse this week. I now have 300 shares total. And I mean, if it wasn't for that sell-off, I probably never would have bought more. So, Jim Cramer, thank you for being ignorant in your ways. There still is a lot of hit pieces out in regards to SPACs. I don't know why. Like, they're not new. They've been around for a long time. They're getting more and more popular, but for very good reason. It's very good for the companies who are going public to go public through a SPAC sometimes, especially when you want to take advantage of an industry like EV that is growing so quickly. But yeah, I did just want to point this out. Next thing I'd like to say, Workhorse C-Series all-electric delivery trucks achieve premium range for last mile delivery. Now this is very exciting. So new data from testing show that Workhorse's 2020 model year C1000 extended range achieved a maximum of approximately 160 miles per charge under urban situations. That's a whole lot of range for last mile delivery. I can't stress that enough. I mean, that could very potentially last an entire working week off of one charge in certain situations. I mean, from the investor presentation, it was said that it had a 100 mile fully electric range. And I have always said that 100 miles was absolutely plenty. Some people disagreed with me. I think it's ridiculous to think that. I mean, this is a last mile delivery vehicle. 100 miles is loads. But to see us now have 160 miles, nobody can argue that that's not enough. I mean, that is so much more than enough. It's not even funny. As I said, that genuinely could last a working week under certain conditions. So Dwayne Yu, CEO, went on to say this: achieving a 160 mile range has been a goal of ours and the last mile delivery sector at large for quite some time, as it significantly expands the addressable market for our solutions. And that's a fantastic point to be brought up. It will make these trucks more accessible to certain people who need slightly more range, who aren't necessarily traditional last mile delivery. As the only purpose-built last mile EV delivery truck with a light weighting design, we are competitively positioned to be more efficient with a smaller battery pack configuration compared to other EVs and can handle the stop and start nature of last mile delivery more efficiently than traditional ICEs. By extending vehicle range and keeping production costs in line with competitors, we have opened up an extended range of possibilities in suburban and rural locations. Now, additionally and equally important, the related charging and infrastructure costs are now lowered, okay, which will further reduce the total cost of ownership for potential customers. If I got Steve Schrader on the channel again, I guarantee he would be very happy to speak about this point right here. It comes down to having more options yet again. It will make it more attractive to large fleets in general. They won't have to pay as much for infrastructure alongside the vehicles itself, which is a win-win. It's absolutely perfect. It's magical. And now that we have that and Hitachi on our side, I mean, yeah buddy, we are looking fantastic. Workhorse is looking better than it ever has before, without a doubt in my mind, and we are at what is, in my opinion, relatively cheap prices. Now let's expand on this and USPS's embarrassingly old fleet, okay? California will ban sale of new ICE cars in 2035. Now they go on to say why not sooner, I agree. But anyway, let's go with the number 2035. If California is doing this, I assume that a whole lot of other states are going to follow suit. Maybe not for 2035, but maybe 2040. But if we say 2035 for now, guys, that's 15 years away. Remember, we just went through how old the USPS fleet is right now. They have vehicles that are more than 33 years old on the road right now. Would it really make sense for them to go ahead and invest in a new fleet of ICE vehicles or even hybrid vehicles when something like this is going to get passed? Really would not make a whole lot of sense to me. And the other thing is, this is going to be so important for new contracts. I mean, we already see Walmart saying they're going to electrify their entire fleet. I genuinely expect every single mid to large size retailer everywhere to follow suit. And if Workhorse establishes themselves as the best, you know, if they're competitively priced, if they have the strategic partnerships with companies like Duke Energy and Hitachi, if they have the best battery range on the market and a competitive price, and they're fully electric, they have people do the infrastructure work for you, they have the repair network set up. I mean, come on, guys. It makes a whole lot of sense in all honesty. So, this is announced. This is a thing, okay? There is a ban on the sale of new gasoline-powered vehicles starting in 2035. The state will require all new cars and trucks sold after that date to be zero-emission vehicles. That's very important. Zero emission. Not hybrid, zero emission. Now, Californians will still be able to operate gas-powered vehicles after that date and will still be able to buy and sell used gas cars. But there will be no new ones. No new ones whatsoever. It wouldn't make sense to me if I was, you know, the fleet manager over at USPS to invest in a hybrid or gasoline-powered vehicle knowing this news. Now, a lot of people might argue that it doesn't really matter because they're already going to have those vehicles, and then by the time 2035 rolls around, they could just buy electric. But I mean, why not just enter the future a little bit earlier? Especially if it's going to be more cost effective for you and it's going to be a better vehicle overall. Really doesn't make sense to me. Especially when we see things like this, okay? The Postmaster General highlighting the vision to establish USPS as a preferred delivery service for the American public. We've already seen them in the past speak about how important, you know, going greener is, having less emissions, etc. is. And just yesterday he said they want innovative, cost-effective platforms to power business customer growth and generate revenue diversity, revenue growth, and financial sustainability. That screams EV to me. Now, I am frustrated with the USPS and how they're handling a lot of things, but what they have said in the past, in my opinion, does scream out electric vehicle fleets coming. If we have a very quick look at the RQ, they now own 729,000 shares of Workhorse. They bought over 86,000 shares yesterday off of the back of that big dip. And if ARK is doing that, I would assume a lot of other institutional investors are. I mean, if ARK's wanted to put that much money into them, why would you sell? Genuinely, why would you sell? Now, I could see us going red again today. I hope we go green, I really do, but in my opinion, it still depends on what the broader market decides to do. I also think it could be a little bit shaky next week in general. There's a lot of weak hands in here right now. If the contract isn't announced next week, a lot of people, you know, who wanted it to happen by the end of September are going to get afraid and they're going to sell off, you know. They might plan to buy back in later, but there definitely will be some people who get afraid. If that happens, honestly, I'm not going to be upset because us long-term investors are going to get a chance yet again to buy more shares at a cheaper price. Now, I don't think we have much lower to go. I really don't. I mean, I never expected us to go this low. Of course, anything can happen. It's a growth stock. They're high risk. That is why they have such high reward potential as well. But I would be very surprised if we have much lower to go than $20 a share. I mean, that would genuinely seem pretty insane to me, given all of the news that we've got come out over the last month or so. I mean, only a month ago we were down in the low 16s. Since then, a lot of news has come out. A lot of very, very positive news towards Workhorse. And regardless of when the contract is announced, it's getting closer. You know what? Every day, every week that passes by, it is getting closer. It doesn't matter if it comes out this month or if it comes out the mid-October or if it even comes out in November or December. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the long-term investors will more than likely prosper a lot more than the short-term day traders. But guys, that is the update I have on Workhorse. So has anything changed? Am I worried? No, I'm not. I know a lot of people are. I really do. A lot of people have been, considering from the tops we're down over 27%. I'm not worried. And again, I bought more. I'm just as confident as I always have been in this company. Sell-offs like this are a part of being a growth stock investor. It is that simple. This sort of volatility is to be expected. These are high-risk, high-reward companies. You are essentially betting on this catalyst that is the USPS contract in the short term. But if you're a long-term investor, you're not. You are investing with the thoughts that Workhorse will be a very successful company in last mile delivery years down the line. I've said it before, even without the USPS contract, I think Workhorse is going to be an absolutely incredible company one day, and I genuinely think we could look back on Workhorse in 5 to 10 years and think, why were we so concerned about a 6.3 $8 billion or even a $20 billion contract. I think they will be at a level where those numbers aren't even that impressive. But again, that's just my thoughts. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. It's a growth stock. High risk, high reward, baby. So guys, there we have it. Another juicy little Workhorse video. I just don't want anybody to panic if it doesn't get announced by the end of September, especially since I am one of the people who has been saying I expect it to. It doesn't mean it has to happen, and I hope that today's video really did, you know, outline all of the different potential things that could happen over the next week or the next couple of months. I am still as bullish, if not more bullish than ever on Workhorse. I will make that very, very clear. I mean, buying more shares this week, it should go without saying it. But anyway, guys, if you have watched until the end of today's video, I really do appreciate you. You, my friend, are a true legend, and you are helping me out so much. If you enjoyed, could I please ask you to hit that juicy like button, drop me a comment, and subscribe if you're new around here. And if you're interested, please hit that first link in the description and sign up to my Patreon. You will get full access to my private Discord. You will get access to my buy and sell alerts, new ticker symbols to watch. We have individual stock chats. We speak about SPACs. There is now a juicy memes chat, and genuinely, it is giving me life. I mean, I'm the owner of the Discord, and I feel like I should be paying for these juicy memes. But anyway, guys, I really do hope that you enjoyed today's video. I will see you for another one later on today. Peace.